Hello, I'm Tara Brabazon, and welcome to the post 52. Why do you, your actions, and your work matter? We're here. This is the end of our coaching series. It's been brilliant. I've had a ball, and thank you so much to everybody who stayed with me and offered feedback week after week after week. You are amazing. And so I thought we would finish with mattering this week and particularly focus on you once more, your goals, but also why your goals and you matter. Because it's so easy at the moment to sort of think nothing really matters. Pointless people are doing pointless stuff. The environment's being trashed. There's so much waste all around us, and all these social media influencers just keep on going and pretending that putting on interesting mascara is actually going to be transformative for the planet. So we're losing that ability to work out what actually matters. So I understand that so many of us have just sort of given up. I think they call it silent quitting at the moment, because it makes a lot of sense. Like, does anything matter? Not really. And so people are pouring themselves a Chardonnay, a big Chardonnay, and they're watching Bold and the Beautiful, and they're wondering, how many actors are going to play Ridge throughout the remainder of my life? These are the questions of mattering. Not. So instead, I wanted to finish this series, and as you can see, it's very, very early in the morning, a bit spooky, but I wanted to finish this series celebrating you, celebrating your goal, but also I wanted this post to be a reminder to you through your life in good times and ill about why it's important to not only focus on yourself, which I know appears very sort of selfish and self-absorbed, but perhaps more effectively focus on why you matter. And I know there are so many systems and so many structures around us that block this mattering, block you thinking about your own life in a concrete but also in a careful way. Because let's be honest, come on, let's do this, right? Every single day, almost all of us are having to sort of fight and have a scrag fight and just keep things going to sort of try and just survive. And we're having to be staunch all the time, putting up with rubbish, yeah? And day after day after day, that's grinding us down. Yeah. So in this final post of our coaching series, I wanted to ask of you 10 questions. 10 questions about your mattering, your work, your actions today, tomorrow, and through the rest of your life. And I hope the work that we do today, there's been a lot of research I've done about mattering as a concept, but I hope the work that we do today provides for you a memory, a crystalline memory for you. So even in tough times, you remember our conversation today and know that you matter. And it is important, I think, that we do ask the questions like, why do I matter? And why does the work I do every day, why does it matter? I know they seem rhetorical questions, but they're not. They're not. Because we need to come up with some sort of answer in our life to give our lives meaning and purpose and energy to allow us to do, to be frank, more than survive in these tough times. So let's do this. 10 questions. And again, as always with my questions, you can watch this all the way through while you're doing the dishes. That's great. Or indeed, you can take a pause, take a breath after each question, think about it, and perhaps write your answer down. Depends on how you're handling this. So let's do our first question. Why does this mattering matter? It is a great question to start off, because sort of why do we matter? It's like, to quote the great philosophers, Kansas once more, we are but dust in the wind. But it is important that I think we sit in our mattering. And let me explain why, and why that's not sort of selfish and narcissistic and self-absorbed. Because we build our relationships and the meaning and the value of other people through our mattering networks. Now, Francine Rusco, in an article in October 2022, so published less than a year ago, has shown that the psychological profile and construct of mattering is a gauge, is a proxy for suicide and deep, deep mental harm. So that's why You Matter is a slogan for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline in the United States. You Matter. So during my academic career, which is now in its 30th year, a lot's happened in those 30 years, but of great interest is the concept mattering, because psychologists have really worked with mattering during my professional career. When I started, it wasn't really a big concept. Now, the field, I was stunned when I was reading for you all this last month, and mattering has now become a very important big concept. It is also a proxy for physical resilience in the elderly. And that means, for example, someone not only lives a long time, but lives a long time active and excited and enjoying life if they know they matter. Wow. And of course, it's crucial to all sorts of the big consciousness movements that we're talking about at the moment. So Black Lives Matter, Me Too. So mattering taps into our ability to feel seen, to feel valued. And I want to log Gordon Fleck's incredible research here. It's a fine book published in 2018, The Psychology of Mattering. Tremendous book, can I say, an absolute ripper. And he shows that while mattering as a concept sort of overlaps with support or self-esteem, it's a lot bigger than those other words and concepts. And John Taylor, no, not the Duran Duran bassist, John Taylor completed his PhD on the topic, and he spent the whole thesis, really, it was a great thesis, exploring the difference between mattering and self-esteem, that these are distinct and distinctive concepts. The big difference, I think, when we think about mattering in comparison to other psychological concepts is that, and here it comes, mattering can be changed. We can, with intentionality, make choices and change our mattering. That's why we're here today. And an intervention in these mattering maps in ourselves and others can make an incredible difference. And there are all sorts of techniques that we're going to talk about today that can enable the development of this mattering in yourself and the people around you. So our first question places value in the meaning of the word mattering and expresses the importance of mattering in our lives. So let's all, from this point on, use the word mattering, use it with meaning, use it with purpose, with propulsion, with an agenda, and know that mattering really, really matters. So speak the word, know its importance, and let's move to our second question. And this is a really sad one. So here we go. Look, getting emotional already. My goodness me. 2. To what extent have you been made to feel that you are invisible? This question comes from Fleck's research and his anti-mattering scale. So this is a scale that's used to measure your significance, or indeed your sense that you are not significant. So you notice the difference here. It's not about your actual significance. This is about your sense of significance with your family, with your friends, with your community, with your university, with your workplace, and with all sorts of leisure groups. Like my parents here were members of the Orchid Society, or the local hockey organisation, a car club, right? Now, George Eliot, who is a sociologist, a fine sociologist at Brown University, defined mattering in 3 areas. AIR, A-I-R, awareness, importance, and reliance. AIR. This changed my life. So awareness is, and this is so important, an acknowledgement and an awareness and an understanding of the people around you. Importance, describing the value of the people in your life and their role in enabling your well-being. And finally, reliance. Are there people who come to you for help and for support? Now, a lot of us gain air from families in our friendship group. But as we know, so many families configure these cycles of neglect. And so when a child feels invisible, irrelevant, insignificant, it has huge consequences on the rest of their lives. And of course, that bubbles most destructively through the teenage years. Okay, the importance of air. Let's ask our third question. Wow, what is the relationship between mattering and physical health? Okay, a 2018 study by Taylor, McFarlane and Carr conducted 1,026 interviews for people between the ages of 22 and 69. And they showed there is a link between hang on to yourself, mattering and blood pressure, mattering and cortisol levels, and mattering and hip to waist ratio. Okay, so they found that allostatic load, which I've always been interested in, but allostatic load, and that is the load, the wear and tear on the body over time, increases in those that do not have a sense of mattering in their lives. Okay, so therefore I need all of us to speak of our mattering and build links with other humans that allow them to speak of their mattering. And when we do that, our physical health improves. Unbelievable. 4. Where does my mattering matter? Where does my mattering matter? So mattering is a proxy, and it is an important proxy for an engagement with our communities. Now, Isaac Predelensky, a community psychologist at the University of Miami, argued that our life should be considered into separate domains. So he also argued that the mattering in each of these domains actually matter. So what are domains like? Ourself, our relationship with ourself, our intimate relationships, our friendship relationships, unpaid and paid work, and also our community. So Predelensky described this as middles, mattering in the domains of life scale, and argued that it is important that we appreciate but also care for, nurture the well-being of others. Predelensky described this as the virtuous cycle where we feel valued, and when we activate positive relationships with others, they also feel valued. So what happens is, this is brilliant, if we feel that we matter, then we have the courage, the resources, the resilience to express that to others and help other people in their mattering. So this is a mattering scale. Yes, this is a thing. And this has been shown to have incredible value in multiple professions, but perhaps not surprisingly, the mattering scale matters most in nursing, and it's been particularly been studied. And I acknowledge Julie Harjip's incredible work here. She's a nursing professor in the University of Virginia, and she showed that the nurses who knew that they mattered to their patients, to their co-workers, were less likely to experience burnout. Hello. So as you can see, mattering matters enormously. 5. Getting crunchy now. Hard one. Is mattering gendered. All right. So I know we've got incredibly fabulous and diverse people who share time with us all in the post. So men, women, gay, straight, huge number of the trans community and non-binary identifying dear friends on this session, and I acknowledge you. I thank you. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your advice, and I thank you for your expertise. So we have incredibly diverse people that watch this post, and you need to know that not only do you matter, but you are truly magnificent, and I appreciate you every minute of my life. But we need to log that the research is demonstrating that mattering and those mattering maps vary by gender. So Taylor's research has shown that mattering is equally important to men and to women in their intimate relationships. So the interpersonal relationship, the big relationship in our lives, then mattering matters to men and women. And can I say for our trans and non-binary identifying colleagues, there's not a lot of research here. I've been searching for it, but I have an open file to add to this research for you. But what's significant is the research shows that women in particular gain their mattering from their roles as parents, but also particularly in their friendship group. Now, this is crucial. Rebecca Bonhag and Paul Froese particularly explored this, and they showed, and this is unbelievable, that men's status, men's sense of mattering comes from their understanding of class and their occupation. So we all have this terrible tendency to ask, like, hello, what's your name? My name's Phil. What do you do, Phil? And so that means that the mattering for men comes from their occupation. So it comes from their positioning in a class-based hierarchy, and that's how they hook in to power and relationships and identity. Okay. Now, why this is of particular interest now is we're living in incredibly volatile times for the workplace. So, basically we can be in work one day and not in work the next. Precariat workforce and so forth. Very, very volatile, very, very unstable. So you can see where I'm going here. In our intricate times when men gain so much of their mattering from work, when work is unstable, they are looking elsewhere for their mattering maps and their mattering domains. And so what's happening is men in particular are going to extreme political groups on the extreme right and the extreme left to give them a sense of meaning, a sense of mattering, a sense of identity. So this gendered data set is unbelievable. I think it sort of changes everything, to be honest. And it demonstrates that every single day, every single one of us must put out the hand of friendship and confirm that every single human being matters in and of themselves, so that they're not out searching for these extreme organisation and these extreme mattering systems. Instead, let's value every human being for who they are, what they contribute, and it's not about work. We can't have all our identity in the workplace anymore because these workplaces are so unstable. They will kick us to the curb in 12 minutes. So we can't make our identity our paid working environment. We can't. So therefore, we need these friendship groups. We need leisure. We need friendship groups and show the mattering in these domains. And then particularly men don't have to go searching for these extreme connections in these extreme political organisations. They can gain meaning and purpose and connection in their daily lives. Yeah. 6. What happens if we don't focus on mattering? This is a powerful question, and really this is the question that guided this particular post and its positioning in the entirety of our coaching series. This is the question. Mattering, or more precisely, not mattering, has been aligned with both suicidal and homicidal thoughts. And I first researched this in regard to the Virginia Tech shooting in 2007. I did some work on that with the legendary late great Ben Agger. And the Virginia Tech shooter left a phrase after the incredible damage he did. And that phrase was, "None of you recognise who I am, so I have to show you that I am important. End of quote. Now, consistently, as Flett has shown, these mass shooters feel like they do not matter. And so, therefore, they enact violence to show that they do matter. So the result of needing to prove themselves is not only their own death, but the death of others. Now, Maine Tickham's research has shown that just simply, I get quite emotional at this, just simply noticing another human being can make an incredible difference. Just that daily interaction on the street can make incredible difference. As you see, I'm smiling because there used to be a line, because of course Kevin's still alive, my father Kevin's still alive, and he's 95. And through his life, he always sort of like, as he's walking down the street, he goes, "Hi, g'day, how you going?" And I used to think that was sort of a bit weird. People go, "Oh, look, you know, he's raised in the country. Country people do that." But the reason country people do that is to build up these mattering maps and these daily interactions with inverted commas strangers. Go, "Hi, how you going?" Because they stop a human being feeling invisible. And that's why they matter. So I'll give you another example in my own life. A few years ago, probably a decade ago now, I made a decision that when I write emails, remember I write hundreds of emails every single day. So instead of just writing an email, writing it quickly and pressing send, so just go send. Instead of doing that, I made a decision with every email to add one more minute, and I would read it for kindness and respect and decency, but I would always add one more sentence at the end that says, "Thank you very much for your advice here. Thank you for the question. I respect enormously what you're going through and I wish you well." I would always take a little bit of time and acknowledge the person. So this person is not an emailer. This person is not a problem in my day. This person is not a challenge. This person is a person that matters beyond this email. And that made an incredible difference to me. So have a think about in your own life. Why don't we all sort of do a Kevin this week and sort of wander down the street and go, "Hi, how you going? G'day, g'day." Do that sort of stuff. But also spend one more minute in an email and finishing with that final sentence, thanking them for their time and their expertise. They matter. 7, how can mattering enable a transformation in our lives? Look, it's so easy to wander around life like a bumper car, isn't it? I mean, that's how I feel like my entire life has been, sort of like this bumper car, being directed by hits and violence and and so that's how life sort of feels a lot of the time, that we're sort of moving through life and then you get a hit and then you end up in that direction, and someone smacks you over the face and you end up in that direction. And of course the trouble is, therefore, because we're sort of knocked about a bit, we make all these decisions in our life to avoid the pain, to just make the sort of violence stop, and to try and just get away even temporarily from the aggression of daily life, okay? And so we make bad decisions a lot. Now, mattering allows all of us to just sort of take a breath and center ourselves and know who we are and know that we matter beyond the attacks and the bumper car action of others. Now, once we know that we matter, we can center ourselves and we can make better and clearer decisions. And yes, we can be proactive rather than reactive. And I know for all the wonderful people, hundreds of you that have emailed me through this coaching series, that has made a difference in your life, to suddenly go, "You know what? I've been reactive for most of my life. Today, I'm going to be proactive." And that proactivity comes from knowing your own mattering. And look, I've probably spent 15 years out of my 30-year academic career bouncing around the expectations of other people. And often these people were cruel, self-absorbed, narcissistic, aggressive, and just to be frank, nasty. And look, they would crawl over broken bodies to be successful. I was nothing to them. I was just a pawn in the game, to quote Dylan. And these people, because it's all about them, knock us endlessly out of our lane, try and get us away from our goal and being a star in our own lives. And these people, and there's a lot of them in our universities, do a huge amount of damage. But look, if we can just sit in the quiet knowledge that we matter, and that this mattering is not dependent on anybody else's views or opinions, then we are calm and we're driven by evidence, not emotion. This means we make really balanced and really clear decisions, and that's crucial. And it was Christopher Gray, I think, who revealed the importance of this calm mattering in our lives. And Gray argued this often takes a lifetime to develop, right? And that's why people move through their lives doing a job they absolutely hate, or being in a relationship with somebody that's hurting them, because they haven't got that calm mattering. They've got used to just not feeling good most of the time. And Gray uses that great phrase, quote, "Don't let life happen to you." Don't let life happen to you. Wow. 8. Oh yeah. How can mattering allow us to determine the most important moments of our lives? Okay. This coaching series has been staunch. I know we've been staunch together. We've demanded a lot of each other here, that we have a goal, and every week we keep walking towards that goal. And we've spent a lot of time removing the rubbish, removing the doubters, removing the people that want to get us out of our lane. But mattering also transforms our understanding of time. And look, if we think we're a bit useless, we don't matter. We're wasting time because we think we're a waste of time. We're a waste. So therefore our time is completely pointless. If we value ourselves and know that we matter, then we think about our time differently. And we think differently about how our time is deployed. And this is the tough part of the conversation. I had to do a lot of work to get to this point. I went for a lot of walks, can I say. And the reason this is so hard for me, I think, is I'm an old goth, right? I'm a goth. And the nature of the goth narrative is that we wander around our goth lives knowing that life is impossibly difficult day after day after day. So what's today going to be like? Today's going to be hard. What's tomorrow going to be like? Tomorrow's going to be hard. What's the day after going to be like? It's going to be hard. And we know on the last day that we're here on this planet, it's going to be hard, and then we die. And that's the goth life. Hi to all the goths out there. But in response to the research this week, I had to get out of this goth ideology and actually ask myself, and I found this really hard, what were the greatest moments of my life? Now, that's a question I've never asked myself, right? And you might want to just sit in that question too. What have been the greatest moments of your life? Now, astonishingly, for an old goth, the answers to that question came to me incredibly quickly. And the answers were an absolute shock to myself. So the best moment of my life, without question, happened 2 years ago when I was on Norfolk Island. And remember, in the last vlog series, you saw it. We took the camera to Norfolk Island. And the greatest moment of my life was when I was standing at the very edge of Norfolk Island on those cliffs, just looking at the Pacific Ocean. Nothing in front of me. Nothingness and everythingness. There I was at the edge of the world. And I realized my meaninglessness, but also how remarkable life is. And then I pushed myself a bit further. Okay, that was a bit weird. Norfolk Island, who knew that was a thing? What's the other interesting, big, fabulous moment you've had in your life? And I went straight to Kangaroo Island. Standing, I know this will come as a surprise to you, at the absolute edge of the island, looking at the expanse of ocean, the everythingness, the nothingness, the power. Now this shook the hell out of me, right? So, all the achievements, achievements and awards and esteem, blah, blah, blah. None of that's anywhere near what matters to me. Instead, it was these quiet moments, these slithers of time. And I think what made those moments so great for me is I recognised certainly my complete insignificance, but I could find some calmness in the world through the chaos. Now, both these moments happened in the last 4 years, and obviously Jamie Quinton has been incredibly important to the framing of this different stage of my life. But if you think about your life in this way, it might change just about everything. What matters to you? What has given you joy, pleasure, peace? Now, I realised through this mattering exercise that I've spent most of my life doing what's important, doing what's significant, doing what's relevant. I have not been doing what matters. So you know what? I'm 54. I may live another week. I may live another 50 years. But you know what? I'm going to spend a lot more time at the edge of cliffs, looking outward at the calmness through the chaos. So think about your peak moments and see if the answer to that question surprises you and it gives you a new insight into your mattering maps. 9. How can a focus on mattering change your relationship with other people? We live in really, really cruel times where a bunch of people just wander around the planet saying the unsayable. But when we know that we matter, we can gift that kindness, that decency, that calmness, that visibility to others. So when you support someone through fear or loss or worry, you can enable their confidence. You can change their life. Ask yourself how often in your life you've been really aware of your context. You've been hypersensate about the people around you. And instead of walking past tragedy, walking past injustice, how often have you stopped? You've spoken. You've listened. You've contributed to the mattering of another person. Now, for me, this is leadership. And what's beautiful about this leadership is it is completely invisible. It has no role or place in enhancing your career, enhancing your profile, or lifting your social media followers. It's just an invisible moment in life. But when you matter, if you can share that mattering with another human being, you will enhance their lives. So make a decision today that whoever you come across in your life today, that you will look that person in the eye, you will smile, you will listen, and show that they matter. Now, for me, this is the greatest leader of them all. And it begins with the singular realization that our liberation, our freedom, is a collective act. And yes, 10. How can we recognize the extraordinary in the ordinary? The characteristic of our time, this decade in particular, is that everything seems sort of heightened. It's important to be important. It's important to be visible, to get those likes and the loves on social media, right? Now think about in your own life. What matters? And a proxy for what you think matters is what you're spending time on. So look at your schedule. Again, what are you spending time on? Are you completing tasks or acting in a way that enables your mattering? Or are you focusing on transitory, ephemeral rubbish, pretending that you're still at high school and you're just trying to be popular? Okay? Actually, the mattering comes from doing some really deep work. Work inside out and outside in. And it comes from that daily routine of having a goal and having the integrity and the commitment to achieve that goal. If we can clear our minds of assumptions and of judgments, we can see the world completely differently. For a week, let's all of us activate those windshield wipers once more. And let's park our assumptions. Let's park our judgments. And be in our supposedly ordinary life and find the extraordinary in it. We can't buy the extraordinary, but we can authentically value our present. The loss, the fear, the worry, we can acknowledge that authentically and recognize that survival matters. And survival has meaning. There's so much talk at the moment about self-care. I'm not a huge fan of that phrase, self-care. And you know, it's about spa days and manicures and lattes. By the way, I've never had a manicure in my entire life, but it's about spa days and manicures and let's have a latte. Great, let's do that. But you know, we confirm our mattering every day when we make a decision to listen. When we make a decision to step forward in care and decency and respect when engaging with another human being. And to create the routines in our lives that simplify our time to render our time more meaningful. Now, wow, there's been so many surprises and odd stuff that we've shared through this coaching series. But I think some of the most startling revelations for me have been the gift and the power of listening, the gift and the power of just stopping, of completely focusing on one goal and completing it, to turn down the commentary on our lives from other people and maintain the momentum in our lane rather than being interested in what other people think of us. So as all of us move through to the next stage of our lives, and a lot of us are going through, including myself, going through an incredible transition at the moment, I cannot thank you enough. I just want to thank you for walking through this coaching series with me. I thank you for your time. I thank you for you. You are a truly stunning human being. You matter. Your goals matter. And therefore, you can enable the mattering of others. I wish you love, light, and peace. Tea out.